I'll start in 3, 2, 1, and go. I am debating at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night or Sunday night when I have two exams tomorrow because I am empowered and inspired by my partner. For the past 2 to 3 years of my debate journey, I have been basically been Joseph's disciple when it comes to debate because he has significantly impacted who I am as a person and how I debate as a speaker. And I get it, right? In their paradigm, it's probably true that Joseph's success is probably a function of a billion things. It's not like he did it himself, but just by virtue of me being able to see the individual person who has things I aspire to be, it is a lot more personal and actionable for me to pattern my behavior on individual people that I can see, that I can analyze, and I can reflect on. This is what is lacking when you don't frame it as individual success. Because we are empowered based on the extent of our emotional attachment towards a particular story. And you have the most amount of emotional attachment to an individual versus a collective. This is a really important thing because this debate's most direct impact is on whether or not people are actually more impacted or less impacted by the stories that they hear. Government bench inherently makes it less likely for people to believe in themselves, which is why I think our case is able to beat them outright. 3 responses towards OG. First response, their comparative is societal justice and community-based empowerment. I think this is a bad comparative for 2 reasons. The first reason is that they never explain why it will be an effective comparative. At most, what they say is that it is necessary. Sure, I can agree, but just because something is necessary, at no point proves that it will be effective at empowering people. In fact, I would posit their comparative can coexist in our side because when you think of societal justice and progress, those two things are naturally inclined towards people anyways, so it's not like in our world we lose the benefits that they themselves claim. The second reason is that it's too wide scope and too unactionable. Look at their language. They want to explore the nuances of society and community structures. Let's say you succeed. How can you actually act on that new information and knowledge? It's really hard. You can't. Because it's hard to collect information on a broad scale basis and apply it to you directly on a personal basis. Their effectivity on actually inspiring people is significantly hampered. Second response, DPM says that people cannot actualize on the stories that they have because those stories are primarily determined by survivorship bias and subjective experience. First, I think this is just downright untrue. People are inspired by these people to actually move their butts and to start and try something new. Many people are inspired by the initiative of all of those stories who do come from privileged backgrounds because it allows them to hope that they can also do it as well, regardless of whatever circumstances they're in. Secondly, it is on their side when people cannot actualize and act, because their comparative leads to analysis paralysis and leads to people being cautious to the extent of them not acting at all. Under their world, the average person never tries to become successful because they'll always believe that because they weren't born in the right position, they'll never be successful. They'll never reach to the extent of all of those people like Steve Jobs. Thirdly, the success of people is not the main outcome and main important thing in this debate. The main point in this debate is on whether or not people actually get inspired. What we say on opening opposition is that more people get more inspired on our side because they can see themselves in people that have done it, even if the situation is different on their side of the house. Third and last response before I take the POI, even when government bench is correct, their impact causes a higher barrier of entry towards empowerment and inspiration because you give too much data which you cannot comprehend on your own, which allows for people to just psych themselves out and to not act on all of those things that inspire them. Before I move on to the extension, sure, POI.
The idea is that people in society have already been following that advice, but they haven't been able to materialize the benefits you talk about. How do you help those individuals?
I actually don't think that's particularly true, right? Because you have all of these success stories that do give you hope on that you can become successful. Again, success isn't something that is a math equation. You can't automatically be successful just by doing a 5-step routine or a 5-step program. I don't think any team in this round can reasonably indicate that they can be successful. What we are saying is that it allows for more people to be inspired, which happens less on side of opening government as a consequence of this fact. Extension. why the framing of empowerment through individual success stories has a more proximate effect at inspiring and motivating people, which means it has to be more effective at getting people to try. Why is this true? The first reason is due to the closeness of the comparison. Directly comparing to the comparative of OG, I think it is just so much more compelling for us as individual people when we can analyze the stories of an individual person. This is because there is less information for you to collect about said individual. There is just a more standardized journey and pathway to analyze what made them successful, and the narrative is just a lot more easier to follow. This means that it is inherently more effective at actually getting people to move because the barrier to entry is a lot easier when you just need to pattern your behavior off of what these successful people have done, which, by the way, you cannot do when you want Gov's comparative. The second reason is just because of the narrative. The thing with empowerment is that it's an individual experience. What empowers you is different from what empowers me. But the key similarity to note with empowerment is that it becomes stronger when you attribute a narrative that you can see yourself towards it. Narratives are only effective when you have the ability to choose success stories that you want to listen to and those who you choose to deprioritize. This is a unique benefit that you can only get on opening opposition because societal progress is too objective and too academic in how opening government wants to tackle it. This is important because you give individual people less choices on how to get empowered on site government. Why is this particularly important? Like, the impacts of this particular argument point towards the very core of this debate. Because again, success isn't a guarantee on any side of the house. But what is more of a guarantee is the fact that people will try, that the people will get inspired and actually try to move, try to do something as a consequence of the very, very intimate connection that they have to an individual person, which is something that you cannot have when you choose to look at it as a collective. Panel or chair, I don't think the comparative stands at all, and I think it's very obvious that it's an OO win. For all of these reasons, very, very proud to oppose.